Hey, it's Aaron, and today I'm here with a 2022 Toyota Tundra. This is the limited edition with the TRD off-road package added. So the Tundra is completely new this year. Toyota basically went from the ground up and totally redesigned this truck. Different frame, different engine, that's a big deal under there, and different design overall. Everything has changed. Most of it for the better. I do have a couple of complaints, but for the most part, this is still the Tundra everyone learned to love. So everybody who wasn't tied to one of the two Detroit makes, or the three Detroit makes, is probably looking at one of these. Starting with the engine, the biggest change going on here. This is now a 3.5 liter V6 that's turbocharged. You can also get that same engine slightly downplayed and made to a hybrid powertrain. I haven't driven the hybrid yet, but my friend Tim Esterdahl over at Pickup Truck and SUV Talk had one and really liked it. So I assume that it drives roughly the same, and everything being equal, it is probably pretty much on par with this. I know most of the numbers don't change. As far as your towing, your hauling, etc., none of that changes. So going to this engine, what you end up with is 389 horsepower and 400 and something, I think it's 429 if I remember right, pound-feet of torque. It's a really good engine, mates to a very, very well done automatic transmission. And again, that is the only option. There is no V8 anymore. This is the only way to get it. Toyota is aiming more for fuel efficiency. I will speak to that a little bit. Might as well do it now. The fuel efficiency, the number that's on the sticker, is probably not what you're going to get in real life. I was about 2 mpg short, and that was with a pretty even-footed highway drive. And so, yeah, grain of salt on that. That's all I can say. And I'm not the only one. They're all over. I did that quick break there because I had to look it up, because all over the place online, yes, there are people that have the same issue. Otherwise, design is completely different. Notice the front end. I want to go over the entire design because this is completely different from the previous generation in many, many ways. First off, being this gigantic grille. Toyota, taking a cue from Lexus, decided that huge, giant, open maw grills are awesome. And so here you go, that's what you got here. On the truck, it doesn't actually look half bad. I think it looks a lot better than it does on some of the Lexus crossovers I've seen this idea on, and the shape is better. Instead of that sort of hourglass that Lexus has going on, this is a little more of a trapezoid. And then the headlights and the aggressive hood design all kind of match with that big, flat, open grille. Down here, you can see Tundra etched into the plastic over the bumper, and then you can see the TRD is added on because there is a TRD package. That changed a couple of other things. There's sound being piped in to make it sound like a big beefy V8. There's a little red TRD button. Off-road gear is added on, etc. It's not the TRD Pro. It is the TRD Off-Road. Got to remember that. It's a different package. Anyway, that's the front end more or less. You can see these intakes on the side are pretty large and aggressive. So you're seeing, a pretty big opening down here. Headlamps are in a now kind of traditional upside down L shape. A lot of vehicles are using this shape now. Headlights are good. Now, my one big beef that I have is when you're sitting in that driver's seat looking forward, this is the only line you can see. You can't see any of this. And because of that, at first glance, you think that the corner of the truck is over here somewhere, and that can be a problem when you're trying to maneuver in a tight space. You have to, in your head, remember that it sticks way out over here. That's a problem for me. I think that's a design flaw. I think there should be something showing you need to be able to see your corners when you're maneuvering a vehicle, especially a truck, because you're so high off the ground. You can't see down there. So that's a beef for me. That's one of my first complaints here. Otherwise, I really like the aggressive hood, and I really like the look here. Let's go around the side and talk about what that looks like. So looking at the side of the truck here, you can see that Toyota stuck with the same general design language. So you have this line here to create this fender, mimics the lines that create the front grille if you're paying attention. So you'll see this lip right here and this coming over, and then this comes around, and that's a line right off of that front grille. And it makes multiple light shelves. So you see you have this one, and then there's a flat, and then it comes back down to here, and then it curves inward and then rolls back out. And that creates multiple light lines, which looks really good. Bodywork is fairly simple. The cab is traditional Toyota look. I think that every single Tundra has had this same general cab shape since the beginning, which is kind of their, it's Toyota's draw line, right? It's Toyota's, this is a Tundra. It's what makes it look like a Tundra. Over here on the door, you can see there are no major creases. It just rolls. So there's a roll out here, a couple of bone lines to create a kind of a curve here, and then a back in, and then it flattens right about here where the Tundra logo is, right about there, and then suddenly jumps in with this cutout. That cutout, again, same shape as the front grille. Seeing a theme? And then you keep going along here, and then Toyota loves to do this. They up arc the back to give it kind of a pinched look for sportiness. Again, every single Tundra has had that since the beginning. Now you come down here. This is interesting. This, of course, mimics the front grille, but it comes through the filler cover, right? That is really neat. This is how manufacturers show off build quality. They do details like this so that the customer's eye looks and says, wow, all these spaces are even. That's good build quality. In the back of your head, that's what you're thinking. And so, yeah, that sort of thing just promises good work, right? Craftsmanship. So coming through, you can see the bed, of course, is flat. It is relatively high. It's armpit to me. I'm 6'3", so it is pretty high. But you can get, you know, the usual amount of stuff in here. It is a short box. It is not a long box. I don't remember what the number is. I think it's about 5 or 5.5 feet. I'll look it up, put it somewhere on the screen. TRD package adds these exclusive TRD wheels, which are beauty, especially on this red bodywork. All this black accenting is really awesome. Down here, this is not really a step rail, it's more of a rock rail, and that is also, of course, a TRD add-on. And then just the chrome and the little things that pop out. So this is an endemic problem, by the way, to the 2022s. Forums all over the place are talking about how this little piece of rubber trim pops out constantly. You know, what are you going to do? Getting back to it, I don't think I have any other beefs on the design. I really like the design. So mirrors, very, very good size. They're huge. They don't look as big as they are when you're in it. They're a lot bigger than they appear to be. A lot of that being, I think the mirror isn't completely flat. I think it's slightly convex, just ever so slightly, to give you a slightly wider point of view, pan of view, whatever. More view. So let's go look at the working end real quick, and then we'll get inside of it. So on the back end here, you can see, again, continuation of that design theme, right? Slight trapezoid. You can see that happening here on the tailgate. The top is pretty wide. I'm kind of surprised. It's wide as my hand spread like this, so I'm going to say that's 5.5, 6 inches, somewhere in there. And then you can see the stamp, the Tundra stamp. You can see this beefy, big bumper back here. Tow kit, of course. Plugs for the tow kit are right here. And then you can see this includes this little pull-down step. Now, I don't use these very often. They are nice to have though. This one is a little bit rough. This is it's easy to stow, but it's a little tougher to get out. Plus, I'm wearing flip-flops. It's not ideal for that sort of thing. But if I could be barefoot, I would, but can't. Anyway, nicely done back here. I like this because the handle looks beefy, but it's not. It's just a button under there. And then tailgate comes down. You saw it nice and soft. There's your inside. Toyota's still using these. This is a rubber bed liner, but they're still using these plastic bed liners, which is another beef. You almost have to have this rubber going on top of it because these things are so slick. You're either going to fall down and hurt yourself, or your stuff's going to slide all over the place while you're trying to haul it somewhere. I do love these rails though. These movable rails for tie downs are really, really awesome. You can unscrew them all the way, pull them out, and move them to there. You've also got the 4-point tie downs that are the usual. And then in this particular one, under here, you got a 120 outlet. Pretty neat. So nice little setup, pretty basic, but it's got everything. Again, get the rubber floor mat because yeah, this plastic is terrible. I don't know why they stick with it. They must have some long-term contract. It's terrible. Let's go get inside it. Okay, I'm not going to show the back seat because back seat in these big trucks they're all pretty much the same. Just know that it has tons of room back there. The crew cab is huge. You can get 3 across, even if they're grown-ass adults my size, they're still going to fit. It's a big space back there. Decent number of amenities, etc., etc. Up front, a lot of things have changed. Toyota has really moved the ball as far as what they've done. So you have a lot of switchgear over here. I'm going to attempt to do an interior walkthrough eventually, but right here you got your squid launcher, so runs the light in the back. Then you got your high beam auto and a few other things, odometer and so on. A steering wheel heat is down here, weirdly enough, and then you have a button that turns that 120 outlet back there on and off, so you can disable it or enable it. Steering wheel still has the Toyota Vampire fangs, but is otherwise a lot different. The buttons are much smoother looking, much more up to date, and easy to get a hold of and use. These nice little kind of dip things they have in them make you know, they tell you where your thumb is, so you can more easily do things without looking. Still physical gauges in the dash, nicely laid out though, and not a whole ton of glare. The glass on the covering the gauge cluster there is on a curve like this, and that reduces glare a lot. Good job on that. This gigantic screen is nice, huge knobs for using it. The buttons are accessible. If you're wearing gloves or have cold hands, you may or may not have a little bit of a rough time with those. But outside of the 2 defrost buttons in the middle, none of these are essentials, so that's not a downside. You got your trailer brake happening. Trailer brake controller is over here, so your gain and whatnot. And then you have your trailer assist button is kind of just right next to it, over to the right there. And then you have a ton of console options. You can move things, open things, close things. This one in particular has wireless phone charging and so on. Nicely laid out. I really like that. Now what I don't like, these seats are pretty flat. Not a whole lot of bolstering, especially down here on the butt. You tend to slide. That's a bummer. I don't like that. I mentioned earlier that the front, because of the design of the truck, makes the corner look further in than it is. That's really visible from here. I do like this though. Toyota has switched over to this electronic mirror. So you can have the mirror down and be looking through it like it's a regular mirror. You can pop it up. It activates the camera that's on top of the cab and shows you. That's a nice view because that gives you, actually I think maybe, yeah, the camera's on, I'm pretty sure it's on the cab. But anyway, that gives you a view through your cargo if your cargo is not stacked too high, and gives you a plainer view of what's happening behind you. And then, like I said, these side mirrors, they are phenomenally good. They don't look like they should be, and they are. So Toyota did a very good job on those. Back to the grab handles finally. You know, little things like that are finally happening in this truck. Biggest beefs. So I'm just going to run those down. Biggest beefs. Visibility going forward because of those corners. The plastic bed liner is terrible. Fuel economy is probably not as advertised. You're probably not going to meet those numbers. I tried and didn't get it, and most of the people that I've talked to or looked at their reviews said the same thing. Interior seating, I don't like it that much up front here. In the back it's fine, but up front I think it needs a little more bolster on the butt. The seat cooling that this has is basically this far from non-functional. It's like most Lexus vehicles. There's so much seat padding that the cooling is really doing nothing. You don't feel it. So it really isn't doing anything. It needs to be more aggressive. Seat heating is good. Steering wheel heat is good. Not that I've had to use it this week. It's been 90,000 degrees all week. But it's been you know, all those things. I have to try them out and make sure they work. Infotainment. I like this giant screen. It doesn't glare too much because the size of the cab keeps the sun from hitting it very often, which is great. But it's still kind of subpar. It's clunky to use. Some of it looks kind of outdated. The graphics might need some tweaking. Voice control is still that clunky, slowly walk through the menu options and try to talk to it kind of stuff. But for the most part, and I think for most people's uses, it's perfectly fine. So there you go. That's what I think of the all-new 2022 Toyota Tundra. I realized just now I never showed you Monroney, so we'll do that right away. I didn't actually bring it with me. I for some reason I can't remember this stuff. My brain sucks. So I'll show you Monroney, and you can pause on it and look it over. That's my thoughts on the all-new 2022 Toyota Tundra. I think Toyota's doing a good job of making sure they're on par with the industry as much as possible, but they're not breaking any real new ground here. This is not new. The hybrid is kind of new, that's cool, but the fuel economy, I don't know that it's worth paying for that hybrid. So there you go. This is the 2022 Toyota Tundra. This is the limited with the TRD off-road package. So, this has been Aaron. Talk to you again soon.